Oh, we're back. We are back. Ooh, I'm sitting a little too high. Ugh. Getting out of my frame. What's going on? 343 Burning Legion. What's going on? Summer, hello. Mizium, hello. What's going on, guys? Yeah, I'm back. I'm fully recovered from COVID, so I'm trying to get back on the horse. It's been a little bit rough for me to kind of like really get back into the swing of things. Been enjoying my time off a little too much, playing a little too much Overwatch, watching a little too much TV. I just started Obi-Wan last night and Stranger Things season 4 last night. So excuse me, I still have a little bit of cough, so bear with me. But I'm back to as normal as I can be. So yeah, so today this isn't really going to be a Dungeoneers Pack live-ish sort of thing like I normally do. This is going to be a little bit more freeform. I'm just trying to kind of get back into the swing of things, trying to get into some stuff. What's going on, Eric? Thank you, buddy. Thank you for stopping in. What's going on, Steven? Yeah, so yeah, we're gonna be getting into. Let me fix my cam. It's bugging me that I'm well. Yeah, so we're gonna be looking at the giant UA options, the giant options from the most recent Unearthed Arcana. This one kind of like came out of nowhere. So the way I'm only going to be focusing on the subclasses. I'm not going to really look into the feats. The subclasses for me are like the bread and butter, sort of giving us a little bit more hints on what's to come. We're also going to get into speculation on maybe where the hell these player options are supposed to be in, because this one's a little off, but it is reminiscent of that Dragon UA that came out that and eventually became Fizzban's Treasure Dragons. So I'll get into that in a bit. First things first, the big thing we're going to be looking at with the subclasses is that the two things I'm looking at, we'll get into some power and balance discussion here and there, but the mainly things I'm looking at when I'm looking at the subclasses are the abilities, the features that they have, sell the fantasy of what they want us to be. Are they going to allow us to play into that power fantasy? And also, can we reflavor this? How easy is this to reflavor? So those are my two big scores of like what I look at when I see new player options. And balance is balance. I've never been a big thing on balance because at the end of the day, um, even if a bunch of content creators, a bunch of YouTubers saying something's broken, at your table might not be broken. Like the whole Silvery Barbs debacle. A lot of like it's not an issue at my table, but for some people it is. So at the end of the day, you guys kind of have to gauge. All I can do is add to the discussion, and you guys figure that out at your table, because some things are not as bad as they seem at times. Okay, what's going on, Brijesh? Yeah, so we're gonna do this little evening afternoon stream. So let's jump into it. Excuse me. Ooh. Okay. Sorry, my cough might get a little bad. I'm still kind of like dumping all this COVID stuff out, but I'm all good. Okay, so we're gonna start off with the first one. I want to start off with my favorite, which is the Path of the Giant Barbarian. This one is interesting. So it seems this is very similar to the Rune Knight, and what I mean by this, the reason I compare these two is that they have two really big ideas, and they kind of like kit bash them together. So just like the Rune Knight, the Path of the Giant Barbarian wants us to grow. So we see this with the Giant Power. When you choose your path, you're gonna learn Giant, and then you get a Druidcraft or Thaumaturgy cantrip, and then you get Giant's Havoc. And I believe this is the one is when you rage. Yeah, here we go. When you rage, you make a successful range attack with a thrown weapon using Strength. You can add your rage damage bonus to the attack's damage roll, and then your reach increases by 5 feet. And if you're smaller than large, you become large. Along with anything you're wearing, if there isn't enough room for you to become large, your size doesn't change. So, yeah, the big thing is I want to grow big. This right here, I want to be big. And then the cool thing, and this is like one of the things I think that really sticks out outside of the typical giant, I'm gonna go big stuff, is Crushing Hurl. We're finally getting a ranged barbarian. Where barbarians suffer from range. They're really bad at it. And this says, hey, take your thrown weapon, toss it, and go ahead and add your your rage modifier to it, which is pretty sick. And that's fun. It plays into this power fantasy. I'm this big guy that just picks up rocks. I pick up things and just chuck it, which plays into another power we're gonna get later. But beforehand, let's jump into Elemental Cleaver. So the big thing with Elemental Cleaver, this is where I feel like there's a disconnect with some of the power fantasy. I know Wizards really leans into giants being this elemental force. That is kind of like the elemental counterpart to dragons. But I don't know. When I think of giants, I think of these big, giant, like brutish, powerful, strength-driven creatures that they just want to smash stuff. Pretty much a Hulk. I don't necessarily think of elemental damage tied to them. I know there's elements tied to the giants, but I don't see like a storm giant. When I think of a storm giant, like they're throwing lightning bolts, they're throwing thunder everywhere. No, I think they're highly intelligent. They have a bit of precognition. They're able to have a lot of foresight, and you don't see that here. And the same thing with fire giants. I don't see them throwing fire stuff around. I see them crafting. They're very smart. They're very creative. There's none of that stuff is in here. So there's some cultural giant stuff that they could play with, and they don't. Instead, we get typical. Here's an element attached to your weapon. Here's an element. The same thing with dragons. Here's an element of the chosen dragon do elemental damage. So it's like it doesn't feed into some of the lore and the narrative a little bit that they could expand into and add more roleplay elements into the class, into a subclass and for your character. I think the most roleplay driven feature is Giant's Power, where you get to speak giant and then you get Druidcraft and Thaumaturgy. Like that's as much RP driven stuff you're gonna get right now. But it's still not a bad feature. This is still a cool feature. It kind of reminds me a little bit of Thor. And then for those familiar with Magic the Gathering, there's a card called Lightning Axe. You're binding a elemental power to your weapon, and then you're able to chuck it and just throw it, and then it comes back. So with this one, when you enter your rage, you can infuse one of your weapons that you're holding with either acid, cold, fire, thunder, or lightning damage. I don't understand acid at this point, though. Just a side note, because have you heard of an acid giant? I haven't. While you wield the infused weapon during your rage, the weapon's damage type changes to chosen damage type. It deals an extra 1d6 damage of the chosen type when it hits, and it gains the thrown property with a normal range of 20 and a long range of 60 feet. And as soon as you throw it, it comes back to your hand, whether it hits or misses the target. The infused weapon's benefits are suppressed while a creature other than you are holding it, so you can't infuse it and hand your weapon off, and they get to whack stuff. This is playtest content, boo. This is playtest content. So it's not official yet. So this is going through the testing phase. So yeah. This is, again, Elemental Cleavers is an awesome feature. I kind of wish this was its own subclass. It's such a cool idea that you're this elemental barbarian. We already have the Tempest barbarian, right? But this elemental barbarian that rages, and then they're bound to some sort of element, and they can infuse their weapon with it, and then they can throw it. That is such a cool fantasy that this doesn't feel giant to me, but it's cool enough that it should be its own thing. Like it really should. And then this is why, again, it reminds me of the Rune Knight. It's the same thing. In the Rune Knight, you have ruins. You have the ruin features. And then you have I grow. And I'm giant. And while, again, ruins and D&D lore are tied exclusively to giants, ruins in general fantasy, are not tied just to giants. Any creature that can read and write tends to have some sort of runic or a language of power that a whole rune system and rune class can play into. This is why you see it in the rune child from the Matt Mercer's Taldor Reborn. You see it there because that's so they have a whole sorcerer subclass dedicated to just rune writing, and then you could tie those runes to any sort of sort of culture and lore in your setting, and then you kind of see it in the wizard also. But we'll get into that when we talk about the wizard. Yeah, and then Ronan here brings up. Let me bring this up. Yeah, this feature could play well with a Tempest Cleric. Yeah, Elemental Cleaver, perfect with a Tempest Cleric. And the thing is, like, this is sort of like power fantasy, right? Tempest Cleric is the closest thing to Thor we're going to get in 5th edition, right? But they can't throw their hammer with lightning, right? They can't do it. They get all this other cool, but like, and this is like you multi-class into this, and then you can do that, right? Excuse me. What's going on, Jinx? Yeah, and I agree with you, Steven. You bring up a good point. I think for the Rune Knight, because this ties into different runes, the different types of giants, we don't see it here. It's just some elements. Yeah, and they do a better job with the Rune Knight, and part of it too is because the Rune Knight came from the fact that they were failing to create a rune scribe class, or the class from that like a prestige class. So they took those elements from it, and also stuff from Storm King's Thunder where they already had those runes ready, and then they were struggling with the Rune Soul Sorcerer, and they kit bashed them together. So you already had like a really well developed rune system, and then you had the giant, so it made sense with the lore. My only gripe is that the runes are so cool that I don't even think you need the elemental, like the giant size growing stuff with that. I'd rather just see a full fighter or a full class that's dedicated to ruins, So it'd be one of those things. Like, yeah, I'd rather see something like that. And a little bit of shout out to my buddy Indestructible Boy. He has the rune keeper class on DM's Guild that is dedicated to just ruins, and each subclass is different runes from different cultures, and they provide different powers based on that. So it's actually pretty sweet, and it kind of goes into, it's way more developed than what we're seeing in this UA. Question from 343 Burning Legion: how would you feel about Elemental Cleaver Mighty Impel being swapped? So let's get into Mighty Impel, and then I'll answer that directly. So Mighty Impel, your connection to Giant Strength allows you to hurl both allies and enemies on the battlefield. As a bonus action while raging, you can choose one medium or smaller creature within your reach and move it to an unoccupied space you can see within 30 feet of yourself. An unwilling creature must succeed on a strength saving throw, which your DC is equal to 8 plus your proficiency bonus, plus your strength modifier to avoid the effect. If at the end of this movement, the thrown creature isn't on a surface or locate that it can support, the creature falls, taking damage as normal and landing prone. So, what I want the switch before I get into like how much I love Mighty Impel. No. In fact, I probably would want to get rid of Elemental Cleaver completely and then move up Mighty Impel if we're gonna be like moving stuff around. I would rather have Elemental Cleaver be its own dedicated subclass feature at level 3 that gets some cool stuff. Nothing wrong with Elemental Cleaver really, outside of like a thematic issue. And Jinx Jane brings up a good point. It just feels like draconic or giant to me. Yeah, there's nothing that says giant in this. There's nothing that says I put ruins, I'm invoking anything, I'm invoking giants. It just says here's some cool extra elemental damage, and this, even then, like, it feels more dragon because you get acid. There's no giants there's no acid giant. Unless there's gonna be something in the whatever book this is gonna be, there's gonna be a new acid giant. No. Mighty Impel, on the other hand. Woo! Fastball special. I know when this came out, people in the Discord were talking about this. Shout out to Drunken Yoda because he brought this up. And he's like, oh, you can fastball special people, which is sick. But immediately I saw this, and I harkened back to discussion I had with Flute Salute when we were talking about the Path of the Juggernaut Barbarian from Taldor Reborn, where you can punch people up in the air and then they take fall damage. And immediately I thought, I was like, oh, I'm going to rage. I'm going to Hulk out. I'm going to grab an enemy. They're going to fail the strength check because you're going to have advantage on this. You're going to grab them, and then you're going to chuck them up in the air 30 feet. And then they're going to drop. and they're going to be prone, and then your allies are going to get to wail on them with advantage. So they'll take 3d6 damage, and then your allies can follow up and just beat the hell out of them while on the floor. I'm just going to walk around and just chuck people like that. Yeah. Yeah. It's cheesy. I agree with you, Steven. It depends if your DM allows you to throw your enemies up. But I think raw, you could do it because it just says space within 30 feet of yourself. Well, in a 3D space, 30 feet up, 3d6 damage, which it may not seem a lot because as a bonus action. Ooh, even then, yeah. This is actually, yeah, this becomes dumb because I forgot that it said bonus action, but you do this as your bonus action, throw them 30 feet up in the air. That's 3d6 damage that they're going to take. They're prone, and then you still get your 2 attacks at this point. You don't need to use reckless, but say that you got a great weapon master, it kind of offsets that. Yeah, there are stronger bonus actions at the point in the game, yeah. And then again, like, you got to think about it this way too. At level 10, this is a martial class that's competing with spellcasters and trying to do certain effects. And at this point, spellcasters can have mass status inducing effects and hit multiple targets. And this is a martial that doesn't really have a bonus action to use all the time. They actually just throw somebody 3d6 up in the air and just to give themselves advantage on their attack. Yeah, and it's not buff. Yeah. And by then, maybe level 10, depending on your build, you'll have like an 18, maybe 20, maybe 20 strength. So you're already kind of maxed this out. And it's not like you're going to be chucking bosses either when you look at this. Like, right? You're not going to be chucking bosses. You're going to be kind of chucking annoying enemies. So maybe you do target the wizard if you can get close enough. Enemy wizard, enemy spellcaster, grab them, chuck them in the air, and then beat the hell out of them. But you're not, the big saving grace is that you're not chucking bosses. At level 20, that DC is 21. And still, that's not the coolest thing you're going to be doing at level 20 with a barbarian. Right? So yeah, I really like Mighty Impel. It's a total power fantasy. Like, you're just this powerful person. Yeah, you can do a fastball special, which you're gonna have a little bit more control of. You can actually just rearrange and you're an ally to get them closer, which is cool. But yeah, Ronan brings up another cool thing. This requires some coordination. Coordinate with your allies, toss them into some web, a firewall, or cloud of daggers, to name a few. Yeah, and that's why I actually really like this. It sets up some team oriented stuff that you don't really see in certain features. Like, right, you've seen a lot of features, and we'll go back to Elemental Cleaver, and you're seeing a lot of stuff like this that kind of happen. And I find, while I think Elemental Cleaver is evocative, it's in the same vein of a lot of features that kind of come in that they're developing that says you do cool thing, and it doesn't really matter what your teammates do. You just do cool thing. You do the cool thing. And while I understand in terms of selling player options, that's very enticing. You're allowing a player to live into some sort of player fantasy, some very, very big power fantasy. But I love features like this, or especially since it's a team-oriented game, where it allows us to team up and actually combine class features with some coordination. Another question. Would you be able to chuck one enemy into another? I don't see why you wouldn't be. There's nothing that says you can't. At the end of this movement, the thrown creature isn't on a surface or liquid that can support it. The creature falls, taking damage as normal, and landing prone. Yeah, I don't see why they couldn't. That'd just be something the DM would have to kind of figure out in terms of how the damage is going to work. Oh, see, Raw, no, it says choose an unoccupied. Okay, yeah, see? As a bonus action while raging, you choose one medium or smaller creature within reach and move it to an unoccupied space. Yeah, so Raw, no. For funsies, maybe. Like, I don't think it's that much of a bad. Excuse me. I don't think throwing them into an enemy is going to be that much of a big deal, depending how like gets ruled. But yeah, Steven says by Raw, no, because it forces you to do an unoccupied space. So like you get the closest thing for an ally, you get the closest. It's almost there to be a fastball special, but since it's an unoccupied space, you can't do it. Yeah. So yeah, and then Stephen Harris brings up you could throw them above somebody and use the falling on an enemy rules from Xanathars. Yep, there's ways to get kind of around that little thing, but I think the cleanest, the biggest tactic is going to be grabbing an enemy, tossing them up in the air, and then beating them down yourself, and then or setting up a coordinate something with an ally, especially have that like have an ongoing AOE effect. Toss them into that so that they take damage from it. Like you have a druid that has like spike growth or something like that down. You take this, throw them into that, grab an enemy, throw them into the spike growth. So yeah, so that's what Mighty Impale is probably like my favorite feature out of this, 100%. Okay, the last feature for this is Demiurgic Colossus. So while you're raging, your reach now increases to 10 feet. You increase to huge, and you can use Mighty Impale to move creatures that are larger or smaller. So now we can start getting to maybe some big boss level stuff, and you're gonna be chucking large monsters elsewhere. And then your Elemental Cleaver increases in damage. Now becomes 2d6, which is a nice little bump for the Barbarian since they have like damage fall off like towards the end game. So yeah. So the big elephant in the room when it comes to this is the reach, right? And then we got to talk bugbears because everybody's talking about bugbears. This is stupid with bugbears, especially you're going to be a barbarian bugbear with a pole arm. So 10, 15 feet plus another, that's like 25 feet. Kind of dumb, but it's probably the most powerful thing you'll be able to do with it. You're just going to increase your range, increase that area of control. But it's also at level 14. Like, it's at level 14 and it's a very, very specific build. Still giving yourself any average character 20 feet if you're going to use a pull arm and stuff like that to control the area with Sentinel and stuff. Excuse me. Not a bad thing. It's just nothing about this screams. Yeah. See, Bob the War Builder, Bob put out a video. I saw that too, that you can increase this up to 45 feet. I haven't watched it yet, but in general, yeah, there's ways to increase it beyond. Other than that, though, I don't think this is. You have to build it in a certain way to really, really cheese it, and then it's a late game combo. Mind you, not everybody's gonna get into this level 14 range. If your play group tends to just play a lot of the actual books, the campaign books, you're either gonna get this is gonna be the last thing you're gonna be able to do, or you're not gonna get to do it at all, which is kind of frustrating, right? And to have your whole combo, their whole character based on a late game combo is not. I don't think it's a good way to build to have your late game combo this late. It's interesting. It's fun to do it on paper, but to be like, I want to play the bugbear that has 45-foot reach at level 14 when your campaign might end before then, you're gonna kind of handicap yourself a little bit, right? You're gonna limit yourself, or you're never gonna play into that fantasy, and you're not gonna feel like you did the cool thing you've been wanting to do. So so yeah, this me for me is just like a big power fantasy fulfillment. It's not as exciting as I think, just because the cool combo things you can do with it happens so late on your average game. If people are just playing Wizards campaigns, you're not going to get to that. Or even then, most campaigns, they kind of end before that because life happens, right? You're going to have more likely going to interact with Mighty Impel and be able to like chuck people first than you do this. Overall, I don't think the Path of the Giant Barbarian is like super powerful, but it's fun. Like, this looks like a fun subclass, and I think that matters more to me than just trying to do the most broken thing. Is just it lets the barbarian play in a different way. Like, you're more incentivized to pick up and throw stuff and to chuck your weapon. You get some weird elemental thing that I wish was just a dedicated subclass on its own, because that's actually a cool thing completely. Now, in terms of my grading rubric, is this reflavorable? First off, I think yes. Immediately, what it comes to mind, one of the big reflavors, Jinx brought it up. Dragons. This is easy. You can reflavor this whole thing as dragons. So you turn into some Godzilla level threat. Your scale, your body, when you rage, instead of giant power, becomes draconic power, and then you kind of grow scales, and you kind of just start growing into a dragon or a drake, and then instead of getting a breath weapon, you can channel the elemental power and elemental magic of a dragon, and bam, and that's when elemental cleaver comes in, and you start doing big Godzilla level stuff. Another thing I could see this becoming, I especially see this with like a Earth Genasi, is like, yeah, you're tapping into your elemental lineage, and you can reflavor it as that, and then instead of growing large yourself, you start to become like the thing, and your body starts to grow rocks, and you start to cover your body in rocks, and that's how you grow bigger, and that's where you're able to chuck stuff. And you can do the same thing with other Genasi, like instead of like you grow, if you're a fire Genasi, your body starts to be wrapped in fire, and you start to kind of grow into this fire monster form. Right? And then that's when you can start tapping into elemental cleaver and stuff like that. I think it's the only thing, I think, like, if I'm rating this, the flavorability out of like a 1 out of 5, for me this is a 3. And the biggest thing is, like, you're gonna have issues with when reflavoring this is how to flavor the giant size growth stuff. Just how are you gonna flavor it? It's not that it's not hard, it's just how are you gonna change the flavor of that so that all of it makes sense. For some lore stuff, I think this is really good with the Duergar. And for the same reason, the Rune Knight with the Duergar, because the Duergar have a natural way to change their body size. And then they have the ruins, and then you could just reflavor Mighty Cleaver as them tapping into rune magic and their Duergar magic, and they're infusing their weapon, or they're activating their ruin on their weapon. So there's that. My chat thing kind of messed up. Give me a sec. I can see you guys chatting on here, but it's not updating on deal here. Let me fix this. Reflavor this as a giant mecha. Naruto and his fox folk. Yeah, it's not that it's not hard. It's just it's not as easy. Yeah, Jake's, you're bringing up the point. Yeah. So Giant Barbarian has the armor syndrome. It's really cool, so people are going crazy for it. In reality, the subclass is mid-tier best. Yeah. So if you're looking in terms of power level, it's exactly like the armor. It's not going to be super powerful, but it plays in the fantasy. Like, you're going to feel like you're doing the cool stuff. You're going to feel like at least everything outside of Elemental Cleaver. You're gonna feel like you're a raging giant dude that's chucking stuff at people and throwing people and just it plays into the strongman fantasy, which is cool. It's not that powerful, but it's fun, and I think that's the big distinction. And I'm okay with that. I don't necessarily want super powerful options all the time. I want stuff that plays into power fantasy. I don't think we need to be having Hexblade level stuff every book, everything that comes out. But also, we're going to get into some of the other ones. I don't think we should have other options that are in this document too that comes out because they lack flavor, right? So yeah, I'm looking forward to this one out of this document. See, can I be saying and go, yeah, like there's potential for this to be able to like reflavor it, but it's the biggest thing it hinges on is like how do you reflavor the giant size? That's why I'm like it's a 3. It's a little rough. It's not as easy as you can, but it still doesn't lack it. In terms of the fantasy it allows you to play, I give it a 4. This is you're not a full giant, so it's not perfect, but it still plays into a strongman power fantasy, which is awesome. But I think what throws it off really is Elemental Cleaver. This is such a cool feature on its own that I don't see why this isn't just a subclass by itself. I really don't. But other than that, all the other subclass features are sick. Like they really fill into that I'm a giant. The only thing I kind of wish and felt wish that they had, and I know they don't want to lock you into a specific damage type. They've been doing this a lot lately. They did this with the dragon ones too. But I think, or it says giant power, whenever you pick this, you lock yourself into a giant. Like you pick a giant ancestry that you're tapping into. And then so you can get additional features that play into maybe some of the lore fantasy behind it. So maybe you lock yourself into a fire giant, and then you get some lore stuff that helps you craft stuff. You maybe get proficiency with blacksmith tools or something like that on top of other fire giant, or same thing with any of the other giant like storms giant. Maybe you get some sort of precog feature. Like they really need to lean into some stuff. I think honestly, if they got rid of Elemental Cleaver and just did and added that a feature like that adds a little bit more roleplay elements for your character, I think that'd be cool. And just remove Elemental Cleaver to its own thing, so that and have this fully developed into its own subclass. So yeah. Excuse me, guys. So yeah. Other than that, so yeah, it's a fun class. This is something I'm looking forward to. I don't expect to be the most powerful person in the room in terms of like my raw damage output, but in terms of effectiveness of what you're going to be able to do and set up, especially with like Mighty Impale, if you can get to level 10 and you're going to be chucking people around, you're going to feel cool. And at least it shouldn't be part of the power fantasy, but like say you pick lightning and you have a hammer, you're going to play Thor. Like you're going to be, be kind of doing God of Thunder stuff, just chucking your hammer at people, and then throwing whatever you can, and then just kind of just being big. Like it's cool, not powerful, but it's cool. Trying to think, because I do want to get into like where do these fit in the official 5th edition setting, right? Path of the Plains, tap into the power of the elemental planes when you rage. Yeah, that'd be sick. That 14th level ability is better than the Runic Juggernaut Rune Knight ability. Honestly, most cap abilities kind of always seem kind of boring to me because they worry about not letting them do cool cool stuff because they're so front loaded. So it wouldn't surprise me if this one's cooler than the Rune Knight. I have a feeling this is kind of going to get nerfed too. So don't expect all these numbers and stuff to stay as they are. They're probably going to tweak some stuff. I don't see them taking the 1d6 damage output away. I think that's going to stay. But don't be surprised if like the reach and stuff gets tweaked around. we're supposed to be getting 2 brand new settings exclusive to 5th edition. So who knows? Who knows what this is? This might tie into that. In terms of where these fit in 5th edition settings and Forgotten Realms, this is kind of a no-brainer. This is it's a blatantly Forgotten Realms. You can just slot this in. You're a Goliath. You're a dwarf with giant ancestry. It's there. You play in a Storm King's Thunder campaign. It's kind of like right there. This fits perfectly in there. If I'm thinking Eberron, this also ties into giants, and I think it's Zendrick. All the giants that were destroyed and killed there. Maybe you have some sort of lineage that ties to them and that you unlock, or maybe you touch a giant magical device that transforms your body. Maybe you're part of an expedition, and this is what kind of unlocks it or changes you so that you're tied to the giants from Zendrick. Let's see. In Ravnica, this is super easy. There's giants exist in Boros, they exist in Gruul, and they also exist in, I believe, the Orzhov. So you want to play a giant because there isn't necessarily giants are members of those guilds, but there obviously isn't a giant race option. So just pick Goliath, reflavor that as your giant, and then just take the subclass. You want to be a Boros giant? You take thunder, you take lightning, or you use fire damage. You use those 3. Either of them, switch those out. Boom. And now you're a Boros raging giant. If you're gonna be Gruul, fire, lightning, thunder also. Because they're red elements, so they're red elemental giants. Then you have Orzhov. I think you can get away with cold. You can get away with cold with this one, and then you flavor that as like you're heating them with the spirit. Maybe you can even do fire, but yeah, I think cold is good. And then Theros. Theros, I think you can get away with this one as being reflavored as like you're Nyxborn, or you're the child of one of the gods themselves. I think this kind of plays in that fantasy, especially this giant power growth. This feels very Herculean. You feel very Hercules with this kind of power man fantasy. So I don't, and then you just tap into the elemental cleaver. You're just tying to this to one of the gods. So you do cold. Okay, you're tied to Thassa. Fire, you're tied to Perforos. Thunder, I believe that can go up to Kyranos, and lightning can go to Kyranos, but also you can flavor lightning as Heliod. Cold, if we really want to go there, I believe you can do that as Erebos. Acid, that can go to Nylea. Like there's ways to tie it, and you're this Olympian level kind of character. And then Summer's already saying some Strixhaven stuff. So let's see. Quandric student, yeah, that's perfect. Yeah, actually, you can see this as a Quandric student. The giant size stuff is actually tied to you using a growth of formulas and pretty much the math. And you're pretty much making yourself grow there. And then the elemental side of that stuff, you're a green blue class or green blue guild or school. So acid and cold are perfectly fine. That you're going to be kind of dabbing into those if you really want to stick into flavor. I could see this also maybe being lore hold. Maybe as instead of you growing giant, you're channeling the spirits, and then you kind of encase your body in that the statuesque stuff, and then you can use fire, thunder, and lightning damage on there. That'd be another way to do it. Maybe Witherbloom. The giant size, you're wrapping yourself up in like vines, and you're kind of become this tree folk sort of creature, and then you use like acid damage. So yeah. Okay. Then let's see. Major asked, is The Barbarian looking better than the Rune Knight Fighter. I don't think so. I think the Rune Knight Fighter, in terms of power level, is just a lot stronger. Or if you're just looking at raw power, excuse me, it does a lot. Like the Rune Knight Fighter does probably too much for what it should be doing. You get damage boost, and then you get a bunch of utility from the runes. This, on the other hand, is I'm just a big dude that throws stuff, and I take up space. So there's a clear different design philosophy with this. Rune Knight has a lot of utility and power wrapped into it, on top of just being I'm the big guy in the room. Barbarian Path of the Giant, on the other hand, it lacks the utility that the runes give you in and out of combat, and that's the thing, that the runes from the Rune Knight Fighter give you utility out of combat and in combat, and then they get a damage boost. And these guys get a damage boost not until level 6, where the Rune Knight Fighter gets it at level 3. So, but it plays into the fantasy a little bit more, I think, than the Rune Knight, in terms of like what people expect to be out of a giant. The general public, not those ingrained into the D&D lore. And because the Rune Knight Fighter, I think, does a good job of using, even though I don't like it, uses the D&D lore of giants and infuses it into that subclass, excuse me. But in terms of general public, of what they view a giant, and when I think of a giant too, I want to be the big guy in the room that kind of chucks stuff and beats up people. Just Elemental Cleaver is the only like thorn in my side with this. But other than that, like, no, I think you get more mileage out of the Rune Knight in terms of utility and power. Excuse me. Excuse me, man. Yeah. But I think the Rune Knight Fighter and the Barbarian Giant Path of the Barbarian, Path of the Giant Barbarian, and the Rune Knight Fighter, they don't compete for the same spot. They actually, I'm pretty sure they work really well, like hand in hand. They're both like, and that's the cool thing. They're both going to be the two big guys in a room, but they're not necessarily fighting for the same spot. I think with the Rune Knight Fighter, you get this trained marshal that is able to have this utility-driven runes and can invoke that, while the Path of the Giant Barbarian just wants to be the big guy in the room that sits in the front of stuff. So with the Rune Knight, you can be a little bit more tactical while still beating face, and the Path of the Giant is going to be grabbing people, chucking them, and just kind of like raging out, right? A very, very straightforward through line, while the Rune Knight wants to have some utility and kind of like be more of a defender. And Path of the Giant wants to be somebody that just creates a lot of havoc. So yeah, I like this one. It's probably my favorite one out of this document. It's not overly powerful. It's just a lot of power fantasy fulfillment. It's just a lot. It seems like a lot of fun. All right, the Druid. So this is supposed to be the Druid of dinosaurs, right? So I'm going to read the description. The Circle of Primeval teaches that though the land may change over time, it never truly forgets. By tapping into the time-worn memory of Earth, these druids summon and bond with the spirits of primeval behemoth, a hulking creature that once ruled the ancient world alongside the giants. So they want this. The most well-known primeval behemoths are the dinosaurs, but spirits bonded with the members of the Circle of the Primeval have also taken the form of ancient predecessors to today's common beast and other fantastical titanic creatures. All right, so this is supposed to be dinosaur subclass for the druid. Off the bat, nothing in this says I'm a dinosaur druid. And it's so frustrating. I don't think that's bad in terms of like it doesn't make this subclass bad. It just lacks severe flavor, especially if you're selling it as, hey, this is the dinosaur subclass. You're going to be a druid that summons a dinosaur pet. This, off the bat, I want a expanded spell list that sells me on dinosaur stuff. Give me spells that are saying, hey, you're tied to, like, this is dinosaur. Like this is a feature. This is a spell that says, hey, you're gonna do you're gonna get claws. You're gonna be able to run fast like a velociraptor. A big bite attack. I don't know. Just give me something. The subclass in general, I don't think it's bad though. There is there is a big lack of pet druid subclass, and I know everybody's probably gonna say, but what about the wildfire druid? You get your pet. Yeah, you get your pet. It's a little fire thing. But druids in previous editions, from my understanding, they were like rangers and they were allowed to have a pet companion. This fills that gap. That's why I don't think that it's a bad subclass in terms of like filling a role, filling a fantasy that's missed. You get to be the druid that's full as a full spellcaster, but you get a pet, which is totally cool. I'm fine with that. In terms of flavor, when you're trying to sell me this as the dinosaur pet subclass, there's nothing in this. There's nothing in this stat block. There's nothing in these features that say, yeah, this is a dinosaur. And I'm just like, man, you can do so much more with this. Jurassic Park, the subclass, like you just do something. And I think honestly, I think this ties to the problem like that dinosaurs have in D&D in general, is that there's no real identity for them outside of I'm a big cool dinosaur. If you really look at the stat blocks, they're just like, I hit stuff. I'm a big brutish beast that just kind of is in the way. I'm a bag of hit points. So I think, and that's kind of the problem too. So let's jump into the features. Keeper of the Hold. Your connection to the mighty primeval behemoths allows you new insight into the ancient world. You gain proficiency in the history skill. Cool. When you make an intelligence check using history, you can roll a d4 and add the number rolled to ability check. Okay, cool. Get proficiency, get a little extra boost to history checks. It's pretty. I really wish this would have been a little bit more specific, but the fact that it helps you on any history check, okay, that's fine. Boring, but it's fine. But really, this would benefit from maybe being a little bit more specific and tying it to a part of the ancient world, actual ancient world, that you get this boost when you're trying to look up knowledge on forgotten civilization, dinosaurs, you name it, stuff like that. But it's fine. Nothing bad. It gets you some roleplay elements, which I'm okay with. Just something a little more specific probably would have been better in that case to kind of really sell the flavor. All right. So the big core feature for this is Primeval Companion. You spend a wild shape to summon a pet. It appears within 30 feet of you in an unoccupied space. You use your bonus action to command it, just like any of the other Tasha's subclasses. If you don't give it a command, it automatically takes the dodge action. And yeah, that's pretty much it's all the basic stuff for what you expect out of Tasha's. The stat block itself. Okay, so it's gonna be its armor class is gonna be 13 plus your proficiency bonus. So getting this at level 3 to 15, it's okay. It's gonna get hit. It has 10 plus 5 times your druid level. So you're getting this at level excuse me, not level 3. You get this at level 2. So it's gonna have 20 hit points. Yeah. Okay. 20 hit points for at least at level 2, 30 feet. Nothing special. Saving throws, fine. It hits things. Right? It can hit stuff. Strike, nothing special. And intercept attack, probably the only interesting feature it has. When a creature that companion can see hits a target with an attack, if the target is within 5 feet of the companion, the target instead takes half the damage. And then the companion takes the remainder of the damage. Okay, yeah, acts like a tank. So it's like There's nothing special about this pet whatsoever. It can be sort of this tank. It's very, very bland. I'm not sure if that's on purpose. But yeah, like it just feels there's so much more if you want to sell it on the dinosaur angle, and it's not like there's nothing in this that says that I'm in this that says I'm a dinosaur pet. It's a cool tank pet. It can soak up damage for your friends, excuse me, or yourself. But other than that, like yeah, it doesn't really do anything else. At least with the wildfire pet, you could teleport and it shoots. It acts like a little turret. It does a little bit more. This is just I'm a tank pet. Ronan hair. I feel like there should be spells just because the companion doesn't have the duration shouldn't take away spell diversity and class identity. Granted, they didn't give Drake Warden spells, and I felt was disappointing. Yeah, Drake Warden. I think the only reason they didn't give it spells is because they were trying to make it that the pet itself was like the spell. All right, so that's why they gave the pet a little bit all those fantastical features, and they didn't give it the expanded spells. I don't know if there's anything that they could have given the ranger that they haven't given to any other dragon based subclass that wasn't already in its kit. Because and if you're going to expand the dragon spells for Drake Warden Ranger, you're already getting all those abilities as subclass features and in your pet itself. You expect to fly and breathe a breath weapon, right? Maybe some claws, maybe a couple other like shape shifting features, spells, right? But your pet kind of gets the breath weapon. You get the breath weapon. You fly with your pet later, and that's why you're just gonna double up on stuff that you're already gonna get in your class kit. That's why they just didn't bother with the spells on the Drake Warden. Yeah, Summer says needs like more primal magic to it. Seems kind of bland. Yeah, this is a very very bland subclass. Prehistoric Conduit. You learn to channel your magic through your primeval companion when you cast a spell within range other than yourself. The spell can originate from you or your primeval companion. In addition, if the primeval companion is affected by a spell you cast that allows creatures to make a saving throw against its effects, the primeval companion has advantage on its saving throw. The primeval companion will normally take half damage on a successful save against the spell, and it takes no damage instead. Cool, you got spell shape, and you can cast through your pet. None of this, excuse me, none of this says dinosaur, but you're protecting your pet. It's kind of what you hope to do when you have a pet class and you're a full spellcaster. Yeah, Dreamweaver. I guess if you wanted to do a dinosaur druid, you can do a shepherd druid with archaeologist background. Yeah, like that looks so much more appealing than this to be like the dinosaur subclass. Titanic Bond. The primeval companion grows to a large size, and when you summon it, you could grant it either a climbing speed or a swimming speed equal to its walking speed. Excuse me. In turn, the primeval companion lends you some of its terrifying might. Once per turn, while your primeval companion is summoned, when you hit a creature with an attack or deal damage to the creature, you can see with a spell you cast, you can force that creature to make a wisdom saving throw against your spell save DC. On a failure, the creature's frightened of you until the end of your next turn. Cool. I don't see why this wouldn't give you a flying speed either. I think at level 10 at this point, you're a full caster. It should just let your pet fly. I don't get why they kind of gate pterodactyls off like this. Like I really, they could just give you flag speed and be a pterodactyl. Why? Why not? And the frighten effect, it's cool. It's not really going to matter at this level. You're starting to fight creatures already that are immune to frighten. You're just going to be able to target like little weakling stuff. Nothing major. It's fine. Nothing powerful. I don't get why they don't also let you do a flying speed on this, because if you're trying to play into all the power fantasies, all the fantasies behind a dinosaur, swimming speed, understandable. Flying speed, a pterodactyl pet, and allowing it to fly would be pretty big. Scourge of the Ancients. Okay, so now we're getting to like the level 14 features. You have finally learned to fully harness the titanic legacy of your companion. As part of your bonus action to use your command on your companion, you can expend a spell slot of any level to heighten your primeval companion's might, granting it the following benefits. So you spend a spell slot and it gets all of this. The companion becomes huge, gains temporary hit points equal to 10 times the level of the spell slots expended. If there isn't enough room for the companion to become huge, it attains the maximum possible size in the space available. On a hit, the companion strike deals an extra damage equal to D8 plus the level of the spell slots expanded. The companion's walking speed increases by a level of feet equal to 5 times the level of the spell slot expanded. So it gets faster, gets bigger, gets more hit points to be a defender, and then it deals a little bit more damage. And that's it. Yeah, this is the subclass. It's not that it sucks. It's just boring. Like, this is very, very bland. It's very boring. It doesn't sell the fantasy. So if we're looking at, like, on a scale, like, does this allow a player to play into the fantasy itself is trying to sell? This is a fat old one. This is a big old one. No, this doesn't sell any sort of fantasy in terms of dinosaurs. Nothing in this says I'm the dinosaur subclass. In terms of, is this the druid that is the pet companion druid fantasy? Yes, it's a 5 on that, right? This is the druid that's a pet subclass fantasy. That's a 5. If they would have just led with that, cool. But I think since they're trying to do some sort of giant book and they're trying to tie this to giants, this is where there's that disconnect. I think they wanted this to be a pet, the druid pet fantasy where you have your pet companion and then your full spellcaster you get to have your pet. And this is supposed to fill that gap. But if they're trying to shoehorn this into whatever book that's going to be giant focused, that's where that fails. And I think, and that's frustrating because, like, the Primeval Companion, you're a druid with a bear companion, you're a druid with an owlbear companion. Like, that fits that fantasy, and that's cool. You get any sort of fantastical beast right here. Big lumbering beast. I'm a druid that has a giant ape. I have Donkey Kong as my pet. And eventually he becomes King Kong later. That's a cool fantasy. Right? That plays into that. If they sold it as that, this would all make sense. But no, they sold it as this is your dinosaur. And that's where I feel like this is missing. Missing a lot. So I think if you do go, like, you're not going to be disappointed with this if you go into the fact knowing that if this print, that this isn't going to be the dinosaur subclass. This is going to be the subclass that I get to be the druid with a pet. And because the pet itself is not bad. Like, none of the features are bad. Right? They're boring. They're kind of what you expect out of a pet subclass. It's nothing we haven't seen that's any different than what we've seen in other pet subclasses. And what they expect us to do with pets. Outside of Scourge of the Ancients, where you can kind of dump your spell slots into making your pet better. That's cool. Happens super late, but it's cool. But other than that, like, it doesn't do anything special. The pet doesn't get anything special until level 14, where you can actually start bumping up aspects of it. And even then, those aspects don't give it extra actions. They don't give it any extra anything. It just increases the damage, increases the speed, and makes it more of a tank. There's a big missed opportunity if they really want to sell the flavor of this as a dinosaur. Here, they really could do it, but they didn't. So for me, going this in terms of reflavor potential, this is a big old fat 5. You can reflavor this as anything you want because it's so bland. And that's kind of like the frustrating thing, but also the cool thing. You can just reflavor this pet. Owlbear, like I said. This is an ape. Like, yeah, like you can just, it can be anything you really need it to be if you just want to play the I'm a full spellcaster druid with a pet companion. If they would have just sold it as that, I don't think people would be that frustrated or feel like this was kind of lame. They feel that it's bland, like there's nothing special about this. They still feel it's bland, but they wouldn't be like, oh, well, this isn't dinosaurs. So yeah, so it's disappointing. But if I wanted to play a druid with a full pet, this is probably the subclass I'd go to. Summer should have been a subclass focused on becoming dinosaurs, maybe something more specific to the moon, but with extra perks. Help with the Dino Druid feel. Yeah, I think that would have sold it too. I think if you become a dinosaur, you can change aspects of your body to dinosaur parts, so you're not a full. It doesn't step on the toes of the Moon Druid. But then again, I don't have a problem if a subclass is going to do something similar, but do it in a special way. We've already kind of seen this already in certain subclasses when they introduce them. The Drake, or no, excuse me, the Dragon Monk does elemental stuff and does it better, at least in a cleaner way, than the elemental monk. They both kind of occupy that elemental thing. Only one has a hint of dragon on top of it, but they fit in the same space, and it's okay, right? And I find that perfectly fine. The undead warlock sits in the same conceptual space as the undying warlock. It's just the undead one is better, and I'm okay if they do certain things. They try to change it up and fix it. I would be perfectly fine that this was like some sort of moon druid-esque druid but they were transforming into a dinosaur. It would remind me a lot of Warcraft, the Zandalari trolls, because whenever they transform into their beast forms, they're dinosaurs, and that'd be sick. And I don't think even people would be that upset. And even if they limited it, the transformation to like you're transforming certain body parts to take on the form of dinosaurs, that'd be sick. I don't think people would be that mad. It'd be one way to get around the idea of when they originally were doing the Fizzbands book, they had a druid subclass that was tied to being able to transform into a dragon. It would allow them to take that idea, take all the dragon aspects out of it, and just make it into a dinosaur. And I know, Thomas, you said pterodactyls aren't dinosaurs. Most people are going to think they're dinosaurs. And even if they don't sell it as dinosaurs, they sell it as primeval. It's a primeval creature. It's an old creature. And at some point, it's like, oh, I want to be, what's that character from X-Men? Sauron? To Pterodactyl Man from the Savage Lands. Like, I want to be Sauron. That'd be sick. So yeah, I don't know. It's disappointing. In terms of flavor, this is a big old fail. In terms of reflavor, this is a success since it's so bland. Yeah, like you have that idea of like I want to be a druid with a pet companion. You have this weird pet you want to use. This is it. This is the subclass you want to use for it. You're not going to get anything special out of it in terms of extra abilities for yourself. So you're going to be really dependent on that pet and trying to keep it alive. But other than that, like, yeah, you're not doing anything else. So yeah, it's I don't know, not my favorite. In terms of subclass, or excuse me, in terms of where you can see this in other settings, Forgotten Realms, reflavor this as however the heck you want it. You want a Albert pet, boom. You want a dinosaur pet, boom. You want to have a you're going to Cholt and you want to have like a giant ape pet, boom. Here you go. This is it. Trying to think. Eberron, this companion, this subclass is perfect. Excuse me, I need a cough really quick. Okay. This subclass, if we're going to go look at Eberron, this subclass is perfect for the Talenta halflings, since they are tied to dinosaurs and they have dinosaur pets. The only thing is you can't play into the fantasy of riding a pterodactyl. But you have, if you look at the cover of the Rising of the Last War, you have the Warforged, you have the Talenta halfling, and then you have the Velociraptor on there. And that's pretty much what this is. This allows you to do that. But you're going to be a full druid spellcaster, which is a kind of ties you more into the primal aspects or the elemental aspects of their clan. But that'd be a cool way to kind of take that in. I'm trying to think what else in Eberron where this would fit. If you guys have any ideas, throw it out there. But I'm thinking like, yeah, talented halflings are the ones that immediately just stick out for me for this. And then that's cool. And then like you team this up with a Beastmaster Ranger, and then they reflavor their pet as a dinosaur also. That's actually pretty sick. You're from the same clan. You have two different dinosaur pets that you guys have bonded with, and you kind of go all kind of looking after each other, and you're both halflings. But you're playing up different aspects of like what it is to be a member of this clan. You're more of the druidic, shamanistic halfling that has cast magic with your pet companion, and then you're the ranger, you're the more the survivalist. That's actually pretty sick. Zendrick. Ooh. I'm trying to think because most of the stuff I see in Zendrick is like tied to like giants, but I know the drow are up there. So I could see this. Maybe you're a drow surviving in the jungles of Zendrick, and then you have pet companion. I can see that. That's actually pretty sick. Ravnica. Excuse me. Oh. In Ravnica, this screams Gruul and Selesnya. So Circle of Primeval with Gruul, you're summoning these big old war beasts, the giant boars, these stuff that that's reminiscent of the old gods, the old ways. You're summoning these big behemoth beast creatures to help fight and wreak havoc on the city. You see it in cards that what's his name? He was the let me pull off to the side. Domri Raid? Domri Raid. Okay, yeah. Domri Raid. He is the Gruul, literal Gruul planeswalker. Spoilers, rest in peace. He got killed in War of the Spark by Nicol Bolas. But a lot of his art had him summoning boar, like big old warthog boar pets to go fight with him. That's what I see with this. Or you can summon behemoths. Let's see. Selesnya, you can change your primeval companion. You want to be more the spiritual leader, but you have a pet wolf. You see that a lot in the Selesnya too. They have these giant pet wolves. Normally they tie it to being a ranger, but I can see this too. You can do that for Selesnya. You have this giant pet wolf with you, but you're more of the religious spiritual leader, tying into more of the nature aspect of it. Simic, ooh. Yeah. Reflavor this pet as some weird Simic concoction. Work with your DM to like be able to customize this thing, adding infusions to it. The biomancy infusions to add extra abilities to this. That'd be sick. To have this weird giant crab octopus creature. Oh, a Krasis. Now I'm thinking about it. This is like perfect. The primeval companion can be a Krasis. I'm trying to think. If this had the ability to fly, maybe this could have been Boros, but it doesn't. So, rant. Trying to think what else. Not Rakdos, not Azorius. Yeah, I think it's going to be more the green leaning subclasses, or excuse me, the green leaning guilds, the Simic, the Gruul, and the Selesnya. And it's just because that tie to nature is on there. Let's see, Theros. This is easy. You're a champion in Nylea. You're from Setessa, or you're a Setessan. You're from the polis of Setessa. Anything that ties you back into the actual natural world. Maybe you are a champion in Nylea, and she grants you one of her beasts, one of her most prized animal companions that she's built, so that you can go thwart whatever evil that's happening there. If you're a Setessan, you live in the woods, and you've bonded with a creature to help actually protect the woods from invaders, outsiders. Like this kind of sells itself. It's very, very straightforward. And Strixhaven, Summer had an idea. And yeah, I was thinking the same thing. Strixhaven, Lorehold student, archaeologist who summons the spirit of an ancient dinosaur. Yeah, you just summon something ancient. And then the spells you're going to take are going to be more of like the fire, lightning, and thunder elements. You don't take any of the cold or the plant stuff. You just flavor it towards more those kind of spells. And then you're sold. I could see this being maybe a Witherbloom also. I can see this being a Witherbloom student, and the pet companion you're summoning might not even be. If you could, excuse me, role play this with your DM a bit, and this is like a tree folk companion that you have. You're summoning a friend, your best friend, to come help you fight. That'd be sick. That'd be one way to do it for Witherbloom. I can also see this being, what is it? Oh, and I always forget the Strixhaven college names because I'm so used to the Ravnica ones. The blue green, and it's what is it? The blue green college. Oh, Quandrix. There we go. Duh. Quandrix. Yeah. I can see this being Quandrix too. You change this. This is a fractal elemental pet. That'd be sick. And then you get all the mathematic natural elements to be able to shape change this thing all of you want. That'd be cool. The fractal. Make it like that. Prismari, I think this works too. This pet that you're summoning, since you already are a druid and you already have ties to elemental magic, this is actually one of those elemental animals that you're kind of forming into a being. This is like a work of art you're doing. That's a elemental sculpture. I can see that being your primeval companion. We're flavoring that. The only thing is, I think you would need to work with your DM to kind of change the damage types. Instead of just doing piercing, bludgeoning, slashing, maybe change it so you have the option between like cold, fire, and lightning. You're just able to swap that. Other than that, that's pretty much it. But yeah, like it fits in a lot of the classes or a lot of the colleges in Strixhaven, and the large part is really because the Strixhaven all have some sort of pet, some sort of mascot. Oh yeah, definitely the wildfire is going to fit better because you actually get fire spells. Like you get the elemental angle built into the subclass, so it's going to do a lot better in terms of selling the flavor. And I think that's what hurts this, that the wildfire gets fire spells, and this doesn't get any spells that are dinosaur driven at all. So again, yeah. Pretty much my final thoughts on this. Easy to reflavor, but sucks on trying to sell you the flavor that it's wanting to sell you. And it's just a very, very bland subclass. It doesn't do anything new or exciting or special. It does what you expect it to do out of a pet subclass, which is cool, but unfortunate. And I really wish they dialed in on some more flavor to give us some extra cool stuff on that one. Because the thing is, this one has a lot of potential. There's people that want a druid subclass that lets you have a pet. And not like the fire pet that you get in the wildfire druid, but like just some sort of pet that ties you into something. If this is going to be a dinosaur pet, give us more dinosaur stuff. If this isn't, and you want it to be completely something else and just an animal pet, then give us a little bit more extra to kind of dial into the animal aspects of stuff. I don't know. It feels very, very bland. Like it could do a lot more. Okay, Runecrafter. This is the last one we're going to be covering today. Runecrafter. So I'm also not sold on this as a wizard subclass, but I'm also not sold on the features for this subclass wizards are not hurting for a subclass. I'm going to be straight up, and this feels like it should be an artificer subclass. I'm not sure if they're going to continue to make artificer subclasses, but this really feels like if you're going to be crafting runes and writing runes on the stuff, while language and the use of words is and putting it into spells is a wizard thing. Putting runes onto items and where this has like an immense potential. You're putting this magical language to create magical items and infuse items with magic. That really sounds like an artificer. Unfortunately, you don't do any of that. If they really try to stick hard to the wizard thing where you have this set of ruins that are written into your book. Yeah. Oh boy, another wizard subclass, not like we have 20 something of those already. Yeah. We don't need another wizard subclass. So, first feature, Runes of Understanding. Your study of runecraft has unlocked the ability to decode runes and languages regardless of their origin. You always have comprehend languages prepared and you could cast it without expending a spell slot, and the spell doesn't count against the number of spells you have prepared. Cool. They're trying to sell you into the language fantasy that you're this you have this understanding of a lot of languages. Nothing bad here. You always have it prepared. It's cool. Gives you some role play that sometimes is missing from wizard subclasses. So yeah, you get to play smarty pants that knows how to read everything. Nothing wrong with this one. Runic Empowerment. When you choose this subclass, you learn how to amplify your magic through the applications of various runes. Your knowledge of these runes is stored in your spellbook. Though you determine the rune's cosmetic appearance. For your example, your runes can be engraved into the cover of your spellbook, glowing whenever you cast a spell. Or you could work the shape meaning of the runes directly into the spell's somatic and verbal components. When you cast a spell using a spell slot, you can invoke one of the following runes. So we get 3 runes. The first one's life. When you invoke this rune, choose one creature you see within 30 feet of you. The chosen creature gains temporary hit points equal to 5 times the level of the spell slot expended. Cool, defensive. You get to kind of be a little bit more supportive and protect your allies a bit. War Rune. You invoke the rune. When you invoke this rune, choose one creature you can see within 30 feet of you until the end of your next turn. Attack rolls that target the spell. Attack rolls that target the chosen creature gain a bonus equal to half the spell level slot expended. So you're just going to add a little extra damage to your spell that you're casting. Straightforward, boring, but straightforward. There's nothing really exciting about this. They really reined it in. So you're going to be adding 1, 2, you're going to 3 damage, 4 damage at times, just depending how much really you're going to do it. Like, it's nothing special. I think you're going to get more out of the life ruin in terms of protecting your allies with temporary hit points is a lot stronger compared to adding a 1 or 2 damage onto something. When you invoke this rune, for the Wind Rune, when you invoke this rune, your speed increases by number of feet equal to 5 times the level of the spell slot expended. Your movement doesn't provoke opportunity attacks. These benefits last until the start of your next turn. That is super cool. Especially get yourself in a tight spot. If you're a wizard, you shouldn't be getting yourself in a tight spot. But every once in a while that happens, so you get to add extra movement and get out of there and not get attacked for it. Excuse me. So you get 3 ruins. None of these are tied or similar in any way to the Rune Knight ruins either. These are just very generic ruins, which are okay. I think if you already have the lore kind of baked in with one subclass, you kind of want to, if you're going to have another subclass that's going to play with the similar themes, I would hope and assume you would play upon those themes and bring some of those mechanics or a variation of mechanics on here. But the problem with this, not a problem, but the good thing is they limit the amount of times you can use equal to your proficiency bonus, so you can't just spam this stuff out. You really have to think out there. The problem with this is all you get for ruins in the subclass. The ruin subclass is a runecrafter subclass. Runecrafter, crafting ruins. This is it. 3. Nothing else. You're not crafting ruins. You're stuck with a 3, and that's it. And it's only when you cast a spell. And the ruins aren't bad. War runes, I think the one that should be the most exciting because people like adding damage to stuff is probably the most boring one to me because it doesn't add enough damage. It doesn't do anything really exciting. It's just okay, one or two, 3 extra damage depending on your spell slot you're spending. But remember, it's half the spell slot level rounded up. So you have to spend a 6th level spell to do 3 damage. 4th level spell to do 2 damage. So you're really going to be adding 1 early on. You're not really going to be adding too much damage if you're going to really be wanting to depend on this one. Excuse me, Wind Ruin. It's cool, get you out of trouble. Life Rune, I think, is going to be your kind of bread and butter to really help you protect your allies and be more of a team player. 5 times the level of the spell slot. So a 2nd level spell, boom, that's 10 temporary hit points. That's cool. Just getting to add them. Remember, temporary hit points don't stack, but still, it's like this seems a lot more useful. Putting this on your frontliner so they stay up a lot longer. Putting this on a squishy to kind of double their hit points. Like this has a lot of potential for stuff, and it's just this is the best one for me. The best one out of the 3. It's going to be the most useful. Just because, and a part of it's because of the scaling. It's 5 times the spell slot level, so you're going to get a lot more out of it. But this is it. This is you only get 3 ruins out of this whole subclass. And so like the name doesn't match up with what you're wanting to do. Sigils of Warding. Level 6, you can call on a rune of protection to guard yourself against threats. When you fail a strength, dexterity, or constitution saving throw, you can use your reaction to expend 1 use of your runic empowerment and succeed on the saving throw instead. Oh. Okay, so early on in 5th edition, I was okay with features like this. I was like, oh, cool, you just don't fail. The longer I've played, the more I've played, the more ingrained I get into the system, the more I hate features like this now. I get why you make features like this and why you want to sell subclasses and stuff on this. Because the allure of not failing, because players do not like to fail. There's a mindset of like, you got to win D&D. So they still make features like this where you don't fail. You just automatically succeed at something. I get it. But failing in an aspect of the game doesn't necessarily mean you're losing D&D. Failure is integral to the game. Ask your DM. They fail a lot. The DM's role in your table is to fail. But when a failure for a player happens, it shapes and changes the story. And when you kind of just automatically just have a feature that says, no, I don't. You kind of railroad yourself a little bit, right? And it just creates this through line. The biggest problem with this feature isn't the strength or dexterity part. Because as a wizard, you shouldn't be in a position automatically for this to happen. And if you're already in a position for this to happen, you're probably already screwed. It's constitution. And the thing is, like, automatically just keeping a spell up. Just keeping your concentration up. This is where that is, and there's no chance for failure. The thing is, you already probably are, as a wizard and you're building this, you're probably already going to have tools that help you. Excuse me. Already going to have tools and feats and stuff that already have you protect this, or you're going to put yourself in a position to help you protect this. These features, while I think are power draws for players, they're very boring, and they take away a little bit of danger from the game that I think is needed to create tension. That's why, like, this is going to stay probably the way it is. People are going to test this, but man, it's just I'm getting tired of features like this where it's just auto win. I would prefer a feature that gives you a chance to succeed with still a chance to failure. Because I think in terms of making the way I see how I would like some of the game to have, I want the game to incentivize chance for you to try stuff and do cool stuff. This doesn't. This says just don't fail. And I would rather have mechanics and stuff that pushes you to want to do things that you probably wouldn't normally would do and give you a better chance of succeeding them than stuff like this. Andrew said, I would consider making some runic rules that spellcasters can learn to add to enhance their magical arsenal rather than making another subclass. Exactly. In general, this subclass doesn't feel like a runecrafter at all. You get 3 ruins and that's it. And then you get I don't lose concentration checks. Summer says, someone at WotC sat down at the table and said, yes, give the wizard legendary resistance. Yeah, it's like, this is just these mechanics. And the thing is, I don't DM a lot. I'm mainly a player right now. I'm DMing, but after this, I'm going back to being a player. And even then, as a player, it's like, man, I'd rather have a mechanic that just lets me and pushes me to do something different and cool and get a better chance at succeeding at that cool thing than just let me do what I normally do. And I probably already have stuff that prevents me from losing anyway. Like, yeah, if this was going to get a nerf, I would give it advantage instead of instant success and make it proficiency bonus per rest. Yeah, this is going to be limited. Like, it's limited by the number because you're using your runic and empowerment, so you don't need to limit the proficiency bonus. Since this takes away from your use of this, so that's already kind of built in, which I'm fine with. But just giving you advantage instead of just straight up not failing is still feels a lot better because there's still that element of failure there. You're still more likely to succeed. And I think they didn't do this because if they have the intention of people picking up stuff like Warcaster or getting or somehow getting proficiency with Constitution, I forgot that I think it's Resilient feat. They don't want to overlap that kind of stuff. But still, like, just straight up saying I win. Boring. Failure's fine. Like, players have to kind of get used to having that level of failure. And that's why you see this a lot. And now I understand the mindset some people that DM a lot and the other content creators say that the game is too easy, that there's no level of failure. I don't think they articulate this as much as correctly as wrong, because it really comes off as like, oh, I just want to kill my players and hurt them. And that's why it comes off. But I think having a level of failure in your game makes it so that there's tension. But also, players got to understand, and I think even DMs got to understand, that failure isn't a losing state in D&D. It's another tool to help drive and tell the story. If the thing that's supposed to happen doesn't happen, well, what do you do now? What stakes are raised now that you didn't get to pull out that powerful spell you needed? So what does your team do now? What story are you trying to tell that helps you win now? Right? And I think that's cool. It builds drama. But having features like this, and think about this. This is just one subclass. Imagine you have a whole team of a whole team, like 4 players, all with subclasses that have the anti-failure mechanics. You're just gonna be running straight through stuff, right? And this, I think, was a lot of people's, after you kind of get through the issue and the hyperbole and the drama behind stuff like Silvery Barbs. I think that was the core of the issue of it. It gets rid of a failure state. And especially because you're targeting enemies on that one, right? And so, like, I don't know. There's one thing on making the game easy mode and wanting to tell the story. You can already craft the game to be that way, if you guys are really just intended on telling a story with some combat. But I think removing any type of failure on some level like this, you do remove a bit of tension and drama and storytelling and angle. You remove that tool out of a DM's kit a bit. Especially if you're going to play more raw. You're going to play by the rules. Phil, let me pull this up. Yeah, because Phil's saying pretty much what I'm saying with this. Pressing the note button, a player doesn't achieve anything. Gaining a proficiency bonus of advantage is winning the role. There's a sense of accomplishment and victory if you don't get to automatically succeed. Yeah. doesn't feel like you're trying. You're just like, I just opt out of this whole engagement. And I don't like that. I want there to be a level of failure in the game. I want to have a chance that something might not go the way I want, so that gives me another angle of like, excuse me and my team trying to figure something out. I'm trying to do something new, trying to get to the end of the story that we're wanting to tell in a different way. Then, if that path is closed off, we didn't get to do the cool thing. What other cool thing can we come up with to win? Okay, so yeah, that's my rant with sigil warding. It's just another ability in a long set of abilities that they keep coming up with lately that just opts out of any sort of engagement and removes a sense of failure from the game. If you would have asked me about this feature maybe when I started my YouTube channel, I would have been like, oh yeah, this is sick. But the more I get into the game and more kind of just seeing certain things, like, man, I do like having a level of failure in my games. And failure isn't losing. And I think players miss this a lot. Like, they don't understand at times that it's okay to fail. Like, failure doesn't end the game. Next, at level 10, we get Rune Maven. Your understanding of runecraft has grown immensely whenever you use your arcane recovery feature. You can also regain a number of your expended uses of runic empowerment. The number of uses regained can be no more than half your intelligence modifier rounded up. Straightforward. Excuse me. Rune Maven is straightforward. You're going to get a buff. Or not a buff. You get to recover some of your uses so you can keep on going. It's fine. You get to... I'm okay with mechanics like this because it allows you to keep doing your cool subclass features more often. And especially as a wizard who is pretty much meant to be spellcaster the class, allowing you to do more of your subclass features to kind of be more than that, I'm totally fine with. So yeah, this is cool. Like, I get to use my runes more. All right, and then we get the capstone, Engraved Enmity. You master the art of wielding your runes directly against your foes. As a bonus action, you can target one creature you can see within 60 feet of yourself. The creature must succeed on a wisdom saving throw against your spell save DC, or be magically marked by the Enmity Rune. The Enmity Rune appears as a faint glowing mote of energy that hovers over the marked creature, which suffers the following effect. So pretty much we get a little bit more like a Hunter's Mark Hex sort of deal. So they get the following effects. The creature has disadvantage on saving throws made against spells you cast. The radiance of the glow rune marks the creature's visible. The radiance of the glowing rune makes the creature visible if it's invisible, and the creature can't become invisible while the rune persists. Okay. When you mark the creature and as a bonus action on subsequent turns for the duration, you can invoke the Enmity Rune to curse the creature until the start of your next turn. The next time one of your allies hit the cursed creature with an attack roll, the target takes a d8, and the curse ends. Okay. Oh, why doesn't the Battlemaster recover proficiency bonus equal superiority dice when using second wind like this wizard's arcane focus? Yeah. I think it's because they realize some of their pitfalls now that they're so late in the game that they're going to change stuff. I wouldn't be surprised that might happen, Phil, later with this 5.5 whatever update they're going to do, that they're going to update some of these things. Okay, so this Engraved Enmity is this sort of hex Hunter's Mark sort of feature. So I think the big thing for this, that's a big boon for you as a wizard, is that you give disadvantage on that target for any spells you cast. Woeful Curse, pretty much you invoke this curse, you activate it, and then the next attack made by an ally deals an extra d8 damage, and then the curse ends. That's boring. This only matters. Excuse me. This only matters if you know you can guarantee a crit, because then you can double the damage on that, I think, right? Other than that, like, an extra d8 damage at level 14, having that creature have disadvantage on saving throws against spells you make, that's pretty damn good. That's good. Now, but let's talk about this part. Unveiled enemy. The radiance of the glowing rune makes the creature visible if it's invisible, and the creature can't become visible while the rune persists. Can somebody in the chat tell me why this doesn't work? I want to know, see if people can see what I see. This unveiled enemy does not work. We're gonna wait. I'm gonna wait just a little bit. See if you guys can see why this doesn't work. You guys can tell me in the chat why this does not work the way it should work. Yeah, I don't see anybody in the chat saying anything. Okay, so the reason this doesn't work. You can target one creature you can see within 60 feet. Or the creature you can see within 60 feet. Okay, yeah, Dreamweaver brought it up. Specifically, creature you can see, right? You can't see invisible creatures. So how can you put a ruin, this ruin mark on them, if they're invisible, to make them not invisible? Exactly, Summer. Yep. Okay, you guys got it. So you have to preemptively put this mark on them and they attempt to turn invisible, meaning your DM has to play into this so that they can't become invisible in the first place. I think I need to pull up the rules on Blind Sight. I'm trying to think like how can we make this work? Like how can we do this? Blind Sight. Does Blind Sight work? Is this okay? So yeah, you would have to get Blind Sight, which yeah, Blind Sight or True Sight, right? You have to do that. This is the only I think ways you're going to be able to do this as a player, so that you could see them. Because Blind Sight doesn't care about invisibility; it uses all its other senses to find things. So you're not actually looking at it. But the problem with Blind Sight is you're not. I mean, I'm not sure if Blind Sight actually counts as actually seeing them, right? So I like it would have to be a rules discrepancy. Like okay, so Blind Sight can perceive its surroundings without relying on sight within a specific radius. Creatures without eyes, such as Grimlocks and Greylocks. If Blind Sight is considered as vision and you allow it to use it as see, if you're by rules, I think this worked. Then you can use Blind Sight, and then you can catch the invisible person and mark them so that they get out of invisibility and are visible to everybody else. But if you rule it as Blind Sight is technically you're not actually seeing anything, yeah, then there's that. So yeah, True Sight or invisibility spells. Excuse me. True Sight or invisibility spells are the only way you're going to do this, so that you can make them pop up for everybody else. And then you pop them out of invisibility, and then yeah, then they're not invisible, and then everybody can see them. I don't know. Just you have to jump some hoops to do something that it feels like they really just want you kind of automatically do. So I think they're gonna have to they're gonna have to change this in some way. You have to jump through hoops to really get to do this part. or use flower to dust them. Yeah, use flower. I'm trying to think what other spells. It is Fairy Fire as another one of those that does it, right? You can, but even then, Fairy Fire just you make them glow. If they fail, boom, like you can see them automatically. So it's like they're not invisible anymore. Yeah, throw the flower, somehow make their form visible. If they're in, oh, technically you still can't see them though. So it's like, oh yeah, if you watch, you're fighting in a pool of like a small, shallow pool of water, you can see them way through the water, but you physically still can't see them. You can just see their trail and stuff there as they're making waves. Oh, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, that's the big thorn in everybody's side on this one is like, yeah, you can't see invisibility, so this technically doesn't work as straightforward as you need it to be. You have to jump through some hoops to really get this one to work. It's kind of dumb, but giving disadvantage, this is like the big sell for me is on this one is like giving disadvantage on saving throws against spells you cast. You're going to be landing stuff, or you put this on a boss, right? You put this on a boss, and you're forcing them to have disadvantage, and you're going to blow through their legendary resistance. This is like the big thing. I think it's cool, and I think that's like the more exciting thing. The extra damage, like the extra damage features on all this thing, it's kind of for this whole subclass is kind of suck. Which I'm kind of glad, honestly. Most of the time when you see extra damage features, this is what everybody's like, oh, extra damage. I'm gonna be doing busted stuff. I'm gonna get to do all this crazy stuff. Seeing these things kind of suck or not be as consistent, I'm kind of glad because you get to start seeing other effects be a hell of a lot better and get pushed a little bit more. This is the big thing. Fix Unveiled Enemy though, like fix that somehow so it's actually works as they want it to be intended. Oh yeah. So the Runecrafter, in terms of flavor, I rate this a 2 out of 5. It doesn't do enough, and it doesn't do enough for the flavor that it's intended. So if runes are going to be tied to giants, there's no giant angle to this, right? And if they're just going to sell us on the language of ruins, you only get 3 ruins. You don't get to expand and do anything else. You don't get to learn more ruins at any point in time with this. So you get your 3 and you're kind of stuck with it. So they don't even expand on that. So this is why it's like, for me, it's like it doesn't sell the flavor enough. You don't feel like a rune crafter. You feel like a rune caster. And that's why something like, again, shout out to Terran, Indestructible Boy, for the Rune Keeper, his class you can get on DM's Guild, sells that fantasy a lot better as a full class, where you feel like you're crafting runes and doing and empowering your stuff and putting empower words on allies and stuff and against enemies. Like it does that, and it sells that fantasy. Granted, it's a full class, but still, the basic idea is sort of here, but sort of not. Like this would definitely benefit from having a rune system where you get to learn more runes as you level, and already have it baked in that you can put runes onto people or invoke runes or in that nature. This doesn't do that. It kind of reminds me, like it kind of pushes that it kind of wants to do those things, but also kind of takes inspiration from the Rune Child subclass from Taldor Reborn. Yeah. Yeah, and that's I haven't even looked at the feats for this, but yeah, like there's a rune feat in down here that does more of the subclass in this. The coolest feature I'm gonna say from this is Engraved Enmity because of this, and this feels like a good 14th level feature. Like I'm okay with just like this part. This is everything else is just bonus if you can get Unveiled Enemy to work. But yeah, like I want to do more ruin stuff. So yeah, for me, it's like it's a 2 on the fantasy. Like it just doesn't do it for me because it doesn't let me play into that fantasy of being able to pick and choose ruins and evoke different ruins to use them to help me channel my spells. It gives you 3 and you're kind of just stuck with him. And I really wish they expanded this and gave it a full system for it. Because that'd be a very evocative, and I would give a wizard a pass to be the runecrafter at that point. But they already being able to get more ruins and cast with ruins, that already is like, for me, feels like, oh, you're in artificer territory. Just do artificer. Make this artificer subclass. Expand the rune system. In terms of reflavorability, it's probably like a 3. Off the top of my head, there isn't really anything I'm seeing like, oh man, I'm invoking ruins. I could see this maybe if you want to play like a witch. This would be a cool thing. You're invoking curses and hexes with life rune, war rune, wind rune, and then especially with engraved enmity, I could see going that angle and maybe like picking up the hex spell in some fashion, in some way to kind of help sell that. I can see being like some sort of hexy witch with this, but I think it kind of struggles in the same vein as like how of the giant barbarian, where you need to somehow excuse me, flavor these in some way. Flavor your 3 rune options, your ability to alter your spells and add additional benefits to this. So it really leans into a very, very specific fantasy that makes it a little bit tougher to reflavor. But as soon as you kind of figure out like, well, what are these runes going to represent instead? Because sigils of warding, like there's nothing to flavor about this. This is just I win button, doesn't matter. There's no flavor behind this, nothing. Rune Maven, it just ties into your core feature, lets you do it more. So like there's nothing really to reflavor. It's going to be tied to that. Rune of Enmity, that's the only other thing you have to really flavor. A calligrapher that makes magic art, yeah. I can see that. Yeah, I can see that. Like either like this as an artist, and then whenever you're casting spells, you're evoking an emotion that you're tying to your spells, and that's why you're evoking your ruins, or you're just evoking an emotion to tie into that. I can see that. But yeah, this is not there's nothing about this I'm just like, man, this is exciting. Just I'm very disappointed in this one. Because they have some cool ideas, but other subclasses that play in this space, mainly the Rune Knight Fighter, expanded on these and let you do what this wants to do. It gives you a whole set of ruins that you can pick and choose from, and let you do effects that add on to what you want to do as a fighter, which is hit things. It gives you more utility and stuff. I don't see why they couldn't just do the same thing for this and give you you get to pick and choose a bunch of ruins as you level that are tied to giants, which is what this should be. If you're already tying ruins to giants, just go full in on it and not kind of half-ass it with this stuff. And give us ruins that modify our spellcasting based off of the different giant ruins, instead of these very undescript ruins of life or wind. And it's not like the life rune is bad. I think this is like the best one out of all these 3. It's the one that's going to be the most consistent compared to these, because the extra damage on this is like, okay, 1 or 2 damage. You're not going to be getting a lot of damage out of this. But you get a storm ruin, you get a fire ruin for a fire giant, hill ruin. Like you get to pick and choose ruins. That'd be sweet. And maybe even then, like just like the Rune Knight Fighter, those ruins give you, maybe you can drop maybe the roleplay element here, and those ruins give you roleplay elements attached to them tied to specific giants to expand your wizard into just being different. Expand your pretty much your wizard to be a little bit more than just I'm the spellcaster guy in your class, like in your party. They can do a lot more and expand the roleplay. I don't know. A lot of potential with this one, but it's also like the execution is just off. I would really love a full-fledged system, and if they they feel they can't do a full-fledged system with a wizard because it's a full spellcaster. Just saying, make this artificer subclass. It's there, it's built in. Like literally, with the artificer, you get its core feature. You get a set of ruins, right? You can just pick and choose. You level pick more ruins that you can evoke on weapons, or whenever you use your infusions. This is also attached onto that. You get a special bonus effect as you're placing a ruin on your infusion for it. And so whenever you use that feature, or whenever you use that infusion, whether it's an item or whatever, you also have that a little extra bonus effect on it. That'd be sick. And it would feel like Runecrafter. Like you would actually feel like you're crafting runes with this. This doesn't sell the name on it. All right. So the last bit before I head out with this wizard, the Runecrafter, where does it fit into the official 5th edition settings? Again, Forgotten Realms is pretty straightforward. Storm King's Thunder. You want to play Storm King's Thunder? Bam. There you go. You're gonna be the wizard Runecrafter guy that's kind of like just digging in and trying to learn all the. You can pretty much like be an archaeologist or a what's the other one? Excuse me, because they did have another they did have another. I think it was in Tomb of Annihilation. They released this one. Another background anthropologist. There it is. You can be an anthropologist that studies specifically is studying giants, and you're in the case of Storm King's Thunder, you understand that the ordering is all screwed up. So, as a lover of giants, an anthropologist that studies giants, you're trying to figure out why, and you're the foremost expert on giants and how giants live and everything. So that's why you're sent out to go figure this out on the behalf of whoever is the quest giver for your party. I could see that in Forgotten Realms and Eberron, kind of along the same lines. You're sort of adventurer. Maybe you work for House Cannith, and you're a dragon market making, but you're sent out to Zendrick to go uncover more giant magic to bring back so that you guys can continue inventing stuff, and kind of like you're stealing to unlock the secrets so that you can continue to bolster the power behind your dragon house. So yeah, I can see that with Ebron. It's like really, really easy. I can even see this like you're a Warforged that has these 3 ruins built into your system. So whenever you spellcast, you're a special spellcaster unit. Maybe you were a Warforged built for Ondair, for the war, and you're a spellcaster to help bolster their ranks. And that built into your system is you have these 3 runes you can activate whenever you cast spells. That'd be sick for Eberron. Ravnica. These are kind of just words of power, right? So for me, Ravnica, I see this with the Azorius. If you play more into like the controlling aspect of a wizard and not really take too many damage spells, and take more spells that are about controlling and holding creatures in place. These ruins can be actual words of law. These are power words like halt or stuff like that. You're evoking the actual guild pack to enforce to empower your spells. I can see that with Azorius. Trying to think what else. I could see this maybe for the Gruul. You're evoking the ancient ones. These are like actual tattoos, tribal tattoos from one of your clans, and then whenever you cast your spells, you're kind of summoning the spirits of the past to help you fight. I can see that too with the Gruul. That'd be pretty fun. But yeah, that's for Ravnica. Theros. Ooh. This fits like perfectly well if you're a Nyxborn. So you're just summoning, you're drawing upon the power of Nyx itself to kind of manipulate your spell casting, and your spells are actually like being drawn through Nyx. So this all kind of like plays into itself. Like you're able to manipulate with the life ruin to some aspect because you're drawing on the power of the heavens itself to cast your spells. Very, very straightforward. You can be you can follow any god. If you're really wanting to get down and really tie yourself to a specific god, I'm trying to remember her name. She's the Azorius god. And I forgot her name. She's the god of the polis. Let's see. What's her name? Ifara. The reason I bring up Ifara is because in Theros lore, she was the one that gave magic to the humans. So she gave magic to what's that couple? They were in charge of Melitus at the time. Let's see. Theros couple. Try to remember that. Oh, here we go. It is Kineos and Tiro of Melitus. So they were the rulers of Melitus, like in the ancient past of Theros, and Ifara gave them magic so they can fight off. I believe it was the Archons. Pretty much these celestial beings that went bad in Theros. And it's hinted at in the Theros like book too. So yeah, okay, tracks. I think it was Archon Tyrant Agnomachos. He was the Archon that also was in charge of the Leonin army, and it wasn't until Ifara gave Kianos and Tyros the ability to spellcast where they were able to defeat them and repel them and free Theros from the Archon rule. So yeah, I could see that if you want to tie yourself. Maybe that's part of the campaign. Agamemnos is back. So if Farah chooses a champion and you're this wizard philosopher that she's imbuing with special magic to help fight them because they've returned. And then in Strixhaven, Summer has an idea. Strixhaven, either Lorehold student has uncovered ancient ruins left by dead giants, Prismari calligrapher previously mentioned, or Condrix uses an absolute nerd about the nature of giants. Yeah, this is perfect for Lorehold. You don't even have to tie this to the giants. You can just say, there's the ancients, right? There's that ancients, those big old four-armed giant-sized beasts. Let's see. Forgot the name of the. You can be invoking. Oh, you can make an Egyptian character flavor the runes as Egyptian hieroglyphs. Yeah, you can do that too. I believe in Forgotten Realms, you can. I want to say the ones that are tied to Egypt are they, but I'm probably misspeaking on that. So maybe you're a Thayan wizard, and you're maybe trying to go good. That's what you're doing. You're invoking magical ruins and hieroglyphics from the past that when they wasn't taken over by the evilness. Okay, the archaics. Okay, that's a trick 7. Yeah, so maybe you're a Lorehold student who's uncovering the words of the archaics, and this is what you're invoking. These are like special words you're invoking on your badass Gatling gun of a spell scroll. The Prismari, like Summer said, you can be a calligrapher. This is like a special writing, special art or images and stuff that you're drawing upon. And in the same vein, this could be Silver Quill if you're going to be using language. These are special words of power that you're drawing upon when you're in an argument and in a debate. I can see Silver Quill doing this. And then Quandrix, these ruins are not ruins, these are math equations that alter your spells. You're doing a certain equation to help alter your spells to do a different and special effect. So I can see that with the Quandrix. Witherbloom, not so much. Just because their whole thing is about using potions and stuff. If there was a way to have touch spells or like way to reflavor your spells, you can maybe do Witherbloom and say that these are different like potions and stuff. But yeah. Other than that, yeah, I don't know. My final thoughts on the Runecrafter is that it's just okay. There's a lot of flavor potential with this one. Like, there's a lot of potential to sell a certain fantasy. I think they just need to go all in on it. They really need to give us more ruins for this to pick and choose and make it a little bit more customizable. I think don't. I think they're afraid of doing that for a class that whole thing is about choosing spells, where that's where your customization choice is. But still, like, having ruins that are tied specifically to different giants, and they give you different effects, just like the Rune Knight, that alter your spellcasting in some way, would be sick. Instead of just getting stuck with a 3. Like, let us feel like a rune crafter, and if you're going to be a rune crafter, and then craft more runes, get more runes, and use runes for different stuff. Sigil Warding is boring and problematic because it just removes any failure. I'm hoping they change this to just give us advantage instead. But other than that, I see this one a little bit better than the, like, if I'm ranking these 1 through 3, Barbarian is probably my favorite on this list. Then it's the Wizard, and then it's the Druid, in terms of like what power fantasy this is allowing us to play. So yeah. Other than that, when the survey comes out, let Wizards know. I know I'm filling this one out and be like, hey, I just want you to like expand the stuff on this one, because yeah, it's getting close to like being whack. Like, the Primeval Druid is pretty whack. There's no flavorful stuff. Runecrafter, on the other hand, there's potential. It's just, I think it might be too big of an idea to be stuck down to a single class like this. But then you can always go to DM's Guild, and again, shout out to Terran, Destructo Boy. He has a full Runekeeper class specifically for this. Yeah. So I'm not gonna get into the feats today. I'm already running late. I'm running longer. I need to eat. But yeah, the feats in general, Wizards trying really some cool stuff with feats lately to make them as feat trees and all this other stuff. So I'm always in favor of like more flavorful feats that allow us to do cool stuff. So yeah. So in general, I'm okay with whatever they're trying to do with this stuff, and as long as they kind of balance it out and still allow us to do some flavorful stuff, I'm good. But again, I'm gonna get back on the horse. I'm gonna be releasing a video soon. I'm probably gonna be recording tomorrow, and we're gonna be looking at Battlemaster Fighter for the next couple videos. And then and then we're gonna see and go from there. I'm slowly gonna be kind of getting back into the swing of things. I'm probably not gonna be producing a video every week. At least a minimum of 2 to 3 a month now. Just I want to have that a little extra time to work on, like, a week to either take a break or work on little side projects. I know I'm kind of back in the same mental space. I will be jumping back in and working on the Luchador class that I have. So expect some live streams and stuff soon, where I'm going to be working on that. Hopefully I can actually spend some time and work on it off screen too, because I don't have much really left besides some special moves and the subclasses. Other than that, we're ready to put it up. What's going on, Thunderwolf? Yeah, I'm not sold on the dinosaur druid. I want more dinosaur stuff. If you're gonna give me dinosaurs, just give me an expanded spell list, or let me just transform into a dinosaur if you're not gonna give me dinosaur features in my pet. So again, thank you guys for showing up. We'll be back next week. I don't know. Well, probably the same time. I'm wanting to go back to Sundays because I actually like the Sunday time a little bit more. But next week we'll be back Saturday, hopefully. Well, most likely. And I don't know what we're going to be doing, but we're going to be doing something. Maybe if Wizards comes out with some cool something else. I got my copy of Monsters of the Multiverse. So yeah, there's that. Got my copy of that. I'm going to be reading through that. Maybe do some like lore / build inspired videos. I know the next couple videos are not going to be build videos. So so just keep that in mind. I wanted to kind of bring back some lore driven stuff and some stuff that focuses on how to play classes, or excuse me, subclasses in certain settings. So there's going to be 2 separate videos for that, just because I talk and expand a little bit more on certain things compared to what I used to, instead of giving you guys like a couple one-liners. So yeah, so the first 2 videos are going to be about the Battle Master, one focusing on how to just purely reflavor it, and then another one that focuses on how to use the Battle Master in the different settings and how you can flavor it in there. So yeah, so I'm gonna be recording those videos soon. After that, I'll probably just do a little build video, probably inspired by one of these. Excuse me, one of these races in here. Maybe I can find a lore-driven one, or just get inspired to do something cool and find a way to fit it somewhere. So yeah, and then probably another new segment. I have like a lot of build and character-driven content ideas I want to do. It's just getting back into the swing of things after getting COVID and taking a break. My break lasted too long. So again, thank you guys for showing up. Thank you, Summer, Dreamweaver. Thank you, Thunderwolf, Major, Kobe, Phil. Let's see who else. Andrew. Going through everybody. Thomas. And then Steven, Ronan. Thank you guys for all showing up to the stream today. Jinx Jade also, see you coming back. Thank you. And yeah, Red Wolf. Yeah, I actually got to go eat, and then I'm gonna prepare for my session tonight. We got 3 sessions left of Descent into Avernus, so I'm trying to wrap that thing up so I can get back onto the player's side and kill some monsters. So again, thank you guys for showing up, and until next time, I will see you next weekend. And you guys take care. You guys have a good one.